Gummy Blocks. Gummy Blocks.
Hello and welcome back, everybody. Sorry about that lengthy weather delay. We're right about to get started with this quarterfinal matchup, Game 2 between Detroit and New York. Detroit in the turquoise jerseys, defending the left-hand tubes. New York in white, defending the right-hand tubes. We get the starting lineups as the players go, as we're about to go for brooms up.
Titans have a 1-0 lead in the series. We see it.
Another false start. There's been a lot of false starts here. I think everyone's a little bit jumpy after the long delay. But while the referees figure out who is going to be in the box, we'll go through those starting lineups. So for Titans, John Jackson was starting in green. Now with the blue card, switches to white. Josh Johnson takes over the green headband. Lindsay Morella, Annika Kim, the other two chasers. Devin Lee, Rachel L. Silver in black. For Detroit, it's Ashton Glenn, Leo Freed, Lindsay Smyers, Luke Marklin, and then Ryan Sue and Ray Brodeur for the beaters. We'll try this one more time, just John Jackson in the box, and this time it is a legal start. Josh Johnson comes in out of nowhere, but Freed gets the tap back from Glenn, immediately off. Smyers can't handle the pass, and that's not going to be a good goal for Detroit.
Detroit needed to capitalize that and start out early here on a game that, I mean, I'm going to be honest, they kind of got blown out in the second half of Game 1. You want to be able to get points on the board early against a really good New York side.
Josh Johnson content to keep this one slow. New York is on the penalty kill here as I say that John Jackson's penalty expires. Control with New York. Josh Johnson working on Ashton Glenn here. Moves left, passes off to Morella. Morella with space, goes to her left. No one's going to close out. Morella no-look pass to Jackson behind. Jackson drives around Smyers. Pump fakes, gets Markland off their feet, and puts it home. 1-0 New York. Ashton Glenn gets that quad ball from behind. New York did win game 1 convincingly. The final score there was 195-70. One more win for New York, and they will advance to the semifinals. Detroit looking for their first ever semifinals berth here. They'll have to win 2 in a row to put themselves in that position, as Leo Fried is now ball handling at the top of the key. Far side, Markland. Beat comes in from Brodeur. Nothing doing, though. Glenn, near side, marked by Minson. Trying to work with Ryan Sue now. Gets the pass over to Fried. Fried passes to nobody. It was 2 beaters on the far side. Minson wins the race to the ball, but just knocks it to the side where Ashton Glenn can pick it up. Looks like Detroit's going to get a second chance here.
Yeah,
Devin Lee with a big jump there to avoid losing control. Luke Markland grabs the pass from their shoelaces. And this one's tied up at 1. Something that Detroit really struggled with last game, tying this one up at 1. It's a great feeling coming out of that lightning delay.
Definitely an odd sequence of events on those last couple of drives, but it does end in a goal, and that's all that really matters for Detroit right now. It's 1-1.
So Johnson ball handling far side. Ayala Silver and Lee with control here. Johnson goes for the shot. That hit the crossbar and went in. 2-1 New York.
Just a good mid-range shot there. Not much to say. New York coming out early. The lightning delay clearly not affecting them too much.
Yeah, Detroit likes to play this 2-2 zone, but New York's been able to hit shots. Josh Johnson, one of those players, but in game 1, a number of players were able to kind of open up and hit some mid-range shots. Detroit's going to keep this one slow. I think they'll try to do that the whole game. Leo Fried to Markland. Shot comes through, no good, and that is going to be over the restrictor line. So it's going to, and then out of bounds. So it's going to be Lindsey Morella to inbound the ball here for New York deep into Detroit territory.
I think this one might come back to the midline, actually.
Yep, so we're actually going to just call it illegal reset there, and John Jackson's going to be awarded the quad ball right at that half-court line, with both teams now set up to play in the half-court. Some big pump face there from Ryan Sue. Devin Lee doesn't bite. Sue with a catch, it looks like, as Johnson drives through, can't get past Glenn. John Jackson throws the ball up in the air. Smyers grabs it and then just drops to her knees to make sure that there's no turnover. Detroit gets the stop.
Detroit Speeders did quite well there just to eliminate a lot of the confusion and chaos around the middle of the hoops, and it made defending that pass that went up into the air, made catching that a lot easier, and they're able to keep control.
Great tackle there from Ashton Glenn as well. New York, a very hard team to stop with physicality, but that's just what they needed on that possession. Fried and Glenn just playing pass up top with Ryan Sue between them. Really patient here. John Jackson, though, goes up with 2 hands, knocks down the pass. John Jackson off and running, just Glenn to beat. The beat comes in from Brodeur. It bounces before it can reach John Jackson, and it's 3-1 early for New York.
It's exactly the play you want Brodeur to make, though. It just comes up a little bit short. John Jackson just a little bit too fast, and that's just, one of the best players in the league right there.
Really, we also noticed in game 1, when the game really started to get away from Detroit, was when New York was able to score a few goals in a row in the transition. I think stopping New York from scoring in the fast break really needs to be a priority here for the Innovators. Sue and Brodeur lose control, so they're looking to win it back here against Lee and Ayala Silver. Fried driving right, gets the pass off to Markland. Markland can't handle the pass. Josh Johnson picks it up, off and running. Again, just Glenn back to beat, but over his head. Lindsey Morella gets the pass, gets the goal, 4-1.
New York, just incredibly fast players on their team and incredibly effective at making those long field passes just for the easy scores.
Mo Hagog into this game now for the Titans. First substitution, I believe. Glenn now over half. Gets it over to Luke Markland. Markland with Hagog pressing. Smyers catches it on the bounce, goes for the shot, knocked down by Josh Johnson. Leo Freed comes in, but is beat out by Rachel Ayala Silver, and Detroit once again comes up short in that half-court set.
Yeah, and it's just that good defense right on the hoops that we were talking about in game number 1 that they had basically the whole game New York did, coming in, putting in the work there.
Vinny Chico and Elizabeth Lawson Keister now into this game, beating for New York. They're going to look to win control back against the starting pair from the Innovators. Morella passes the ball back up, top of the key. Josh Johnson. Chico in front. Ashton Glenn here can't be beat in the keeper zone wearing that green headband. Johnson keeping this one real slow as Kim and Lawson Keister are both beat out behind the play. Morella now content up top. Hagag gets it right back up to Josh Johnson. Super patient here from New York as Ryan Sue finally presses. Josh Johnson all the way over the top. Hagag can't quite handle the pass, and that's going to be a good stop there for the Innovators. So, again, early, New York seems to be struggling in the half court, but it hasn't bothered them too much with as many transition chances as they've been able to get.
Ryan Sue beat out a chaser and a beater behind the hoops early on that play, and then put on the pressure early, which made New York make a decision. So big ups to Ryan Sue there, forcing New York to make that long pass.
Leo Freed here to ball handle. Brooke Smiley and David Banis into this game to beat for the Innovators. They inherit control from their teammates here as Luke Marklin backpedals around the corner. Lindsay Morella commits over to play point defense. Ashton Glenn gets the pass off on one bounce to Lindsay Smyers. Smyers slows it up before getting it to Freed at the top of the key with Banis in front to protect. Hagag, the one in the green headband for the Titans now. Cannot be beat in that zone. Again, Marklin, same as a few seconds ago, running that same route around the far side. Ashton Glenn can't handle the pass. Josh Johnson gets beat, though. Great beat there from Smiley. Ashton Glenn picks it up and puts it home. Give the assist to Brooke Smiley, 4-2.
Detroit, just a really good team goal there, able to get one back.
Looks like we also are going to have an injury stoppage here. That's Brooke Smiley on the ground in the beating game for the Innovators. I did not see what happened. I'm not sure what happened there. But as we just talked about, Detroit, really, they've been able to maintain control here for a few possessions in a row. In that last possession, they really put it to good use. That beat on Josh Johnson right at his own hoops is ultimately what led to that goal. And I think that's something that New York wasn't really expecting. It's not really something that happened to them earlier in game 1. Meanwhile, from the Detroit side, as Brooke Smiley jumps to her feet, she looks like she's going to be all right. As both teams now go towards their sideline. Meanwhile, New York, they've been stopped a number of times in the half court. As we said, they've been able to score in transition. While it hasn't bothered them too much so far, about 8 minutes into this one, they do have that 2-goal lead. It doesn't bode well for a deep bracket run if they're consistently failing to score in the half court against a team I think a lot of people had as the weaker side in this matchup.
Referees now breaking their huddle. I wasn't sure if there was a timeout call or was just an extended injury stoppage.
I think there was an extended stoppage to talk about that play. Although with no explanation going to team coaches, I think it must have been a timeout.
Well, either way, the players are returning to their brooms.
All right, so referee over here is going to be talking to the beaters. Ray Broder subs in for Brooks Smiley as that injury sub. Looks like the dodgeball is going to be placed on the ground at the feet of Ray Broder and Elizabeth Lawson Keister. Meanwhile, Chico does have a dodgeball. Banis does not. That's going to be control to New York as Hagag sprints up the pitch before backpedaling on the big pump fake there from Banis. Far side, Josh Johnson now going to ball handle. Moving near side to Morella. Morella now. Right back over to Johnson. Slowly working their way up the pitch here. Johnson jumps right over the top of Ashton Glenn and puts the shot home on that tall hoop. Again, when we're talking about this Detroit half-court defense in the zone, it seems like the one place they're a little bit leaky is on those mid-range shots.
Yeah, an incredibly flashy play there. Like you said on Detroit's half-court zone, they were sinking back way too far. Gave, too much space for Johnson to operate there, and it just turned into an easy goal.
So some subs now here in the chaser line for the Innovators. Markland is going to be ball handling it, this time near to camera. Gwen Pratt is the far side corner option. Instead, Markland comes back towards the top, and Leo Freed. Freed does catch the pass here. Moves left. Morella goes for the strip. Not going to work, and she is beat out for that effort. Meanwhile, Hagag gets the strip and is off and running. Ray Broder in front. Hagag slows it down, lets his beaters get in front of him. Gwen Pratt now trying to catch up. Not going to be able to. The pass comes well over the top to Parada. Parada now working to his left, shooting a crossbody. Didn't go in. Molly Potter, though, one bounce on the rebound. She takes a shot. That also does not go through. And New York can't convert as they've kind of moved away from that starting chaser line into their second line.
An incredibly rushed possession, but good job on Detroit just keeping the physicality up enough to disrupt those shot attempts from the Titans.
Morella now the only starter left in the game for New York, as we do have a whistle that stops play. Not sure what the conversation is here between the refs. I think it feels like both teams have really struggled to get into a good rhythm. There's been one or two transition goals from New York where you think maybe that's the spark. Maybe they're going to go on a little bit of a run here like they did in game one. But so far, both teams have kind of, had some success, had some failure. There's been a few whistles. I think coming out of this rain delay, it's kind of taking a minute for this game to really feel like it's in the flow again.
Yeah, and it's still relatively within reach for Detroit here. I think what's interesting about this one is that New York looks like they've been the better team most of this game, whereas in game number one, they looked pretty even through the first 7 or 8 minutes or so before New York started to pull away. But this time, the score, I think, doesn't accurately represent what's going on here. I think New York has been the better team, and yet it's only about a 3-point game right now. Detroit's still in this game.
Banis subbing out for Sue here on the Innovators side. Got those starting beaters back in for Detroit. Leo Freed, ball carrying near side. Hands it off to Markland. To Pratt. Continuing around the wheel here. Then back up to the top in Pratt. Pump fake. And then to Markland. To Freed. Freed has Sue in front. Freed drives over the goal. No good. Molly Potter going to be first to the ball. Gwen Pratt is preventing her from picking it up, though. But ultimately, Pratt's going to get beat out there. But Freed is able to pick it up. Freed runs the other way and puts it home. Once again, give the assist on that to Gwen Pratt, really slowing down the Titans side. While they were ultimately beat out, it allowed Leo Freed to pick up that loose quad ball and give the Innovators one more goal.
Yeah, and just really punished New York, who was looking to run the other way. Leo Freed, off that pass from Gwen Pratt, as you said, just able to punish.
So now Parada ball handling, gets it to Hagag. Robert Butler playing point defense here, cannot be beat in the zone. Parada now moving right, gets picked up by Markland. The pass over the top to Hagag. Hagag goes right, then left. The ball comes out, and Pratt falls on it. Innovators here with a little bit of an energy swing in their direction. So head coach of New York, Tate K, puts himself into the game to try to slow down the Innovators alongside partner Tessa Mullins. 2
good plays in a row from Gwen Pratt there. The offensive one getting the assist to Leo Freed, and then the defensive one to stop the score for New York.
Down just 2 and with a chance to cut the lead to 1. Far side, Pratt ball handling now. Broder in front. Gets it back up to Butler. Butler to Markland. Freed is the corner option. Sue is there. Sue is getting bothered by Kay. The beat from Mullins misses, although it hit the quad ball, I think, which put it on the ground. That's ultimately going to get the stop, although Mullins and the Titans were without a dodgeball for a moment. They're able to get this one back into the play. Detroit is not interested in pressing.
8 minutes or so left until flag runner on pitch. It's 5-3 New York.
Over half, Josh Johnson back into this game. Hagag passes right back to Johnson. K with the beat on Markland to open up a shot. Instead, the pass comes to Hagag, and then Butler intercepts. Butler slows it up, does not like his chances one-on-one against Josh Johnson, and I don't blame him. So Detroit's going to run a half court here.
Not only that, but New York had about 4 chaser defenders back, and not likely you're going to get through all of them.
So good decision making here from Detroit after a good read to intercept the pass. Butler now has it back up once again at the top of the key to Freed, right back to Butler, and then over to Markland. The 3 playing up high. Markland to Gwen Pratt, lost in coverage, but I believe that was Shrina Shah got a hand on the alley-oop shot attempt. And Josh Johnson, great athletic play, the one-handed catch, and while still in the air, pass right back to Hagag. And Johnson, far side, Shaw in and out of her hands. Markland beat out by K. Butler there with the green headband to clean it up. 5-3 remains the score.
That possession almost looked a little bit too rushed. I think I like what Johnson had in mind, sending it towards the medium-sized hoop, but then the pass couldn't be handled, and it just turned into a real scuffle on the far end that Detroit was happy to take, as they now have the quad ball going the other way.
Banis and Smiley back into this one for Detroit. Good to see Brooke Smiley back out there after the earlier injury stoppage for her. Butler to Markland near side, now going to go around the corner. Take K, going to fill up a lot of that space to prevent a drive. Markland does eventually drive, hits Pratt as K has to commit to Markland. Then the pass goes far side to Butler. Butler has Banis with him to protect. Big pump fake there from Banis. Molly Potter goes for the hit on Freed, gets beat out. To Butler now. Butler gets Pratt on the run. She was able to handle the pass, but it took a little bit of an extra second, so before she could get a shot off, she was beat by Take K.
Yeah, didn't catch it cleanly, didn't drop the pass, of course, but yeah, the Titans were able to get a point defender there to disrupt any potential shot.
So Take K and Tessa Mullins now with control in front of Josh Johnson. New York looking to extend their lead to 3 here. Really slow now from both teams. Josh Johnson to Molly Potter. Potter cannot get around Butler. Passes over to Johnson. Johnson fakes right, goes left. Top hoop is open again for Josh Johnson.
Good goal, number 10, Josh Johnson.
Jackson, I said it a lot in game 1. I feel like I'm saying it a lot here in game 2. If you're going to run a zone defense, you really need to make sure that whoever is on hoops is really disciplined against this New York team.
Yeah, the problem is New York is living with a lot of these mid-range shots, getting so many of them to fall, and Detroit is just not punishing them and not adjusting correctly, or they have been adjusting correctly, but they're not executing it well enough.
Butler gets pressed by Minson, so gets the ball out to Pratt near side. Back up to Butler at the top. Butler on one bounce to Markland, met by Josh Johnson. Few different pump fakes, and then Freed comes in, was beat by Mullins. Good find there from Markland, but better play from Mullins. Meanwhile, Frank Minson is off and running, goes a little stutter step, gets brought down hard by Robert Butler. Freed comes in for the team defense, and that's going to bring us a whistle.
There's a good heads-up play by Minson to rush there, but yeah, great tackle there by Butler to stop the fast break. Looks like there might be a penalty on the play. We'll see what results from it.
Yep, head referee is talking to the players now. It looks like Detroit's pleading their case. So my guess would be if there is a card, it would be going against them. Meanwhile, though, I think Markland found a cutting Leo Freed on that last offensive possession for Detroit. A really pretty alley-oop attempt. The ball did go through the hoop, but Tessa Mullins read that play really well and was able to get the beat off before Freed could get the goal through. Also, Frank Minson hopping off the pitch there on his right foot. Unclear there if that's injury related. He'd been standing around, so we hope he's all right. But Mike Lee is going to be the sub there. Lee directly to Johnson. Johnson fakes right, goes left, puts it home. Molly Potter had pushed Gwen Pratt to open up that small hoop.
It's already Johnson's 4th goal of the game, which says a lot about Johnson's ability as a player, but it also says a lot about New York. You just mentioned Molly Potter opening the lane there by pushing Gwen Pratt, the hoop defender. And a lot of these goals that Johnson's been getting have been set up quite well by either a beater or a chaser on New York.
Butler now over half. Handoff to Freed and back to Butler with Smiley in front. The beat comes from K, beats out Smiley. Pass over the top. Josh Johnson got a hand on it. Markland picked it up. That's going to be a stop. And while the beaters are off and running, the chasers haven't. Finally, Mike Lee picks it up. He's sprinting up the pitch. The two-handed pass over to Johnson. Johnson goes right, shoots left, and puts it home again. Josh Johnson is on fire.
So Johnson gets another. It's going to be 8-3 now in favor of the Titans. Just a little under 3 minutes left here in the first half.
And Detroit does call a timeout out of this one. So after making it a close game early, being down only 5-3, New York is on a 3-0 run to extend their lead 8-3. And as we're at about the 17-minute mark, it really feels similar to last game. Detroit held it close, but then New York started to run away with it. And by the time we hit 20 minutes, it was really all New York. And after the flag runner catch, that was kind of the final nail in the coffin. Jackson, do we think Detroit can avoid that same narrative over again?
You know, I'm not too sure they can. And I think Detroit has the talent, especially on their top line, to compete with New York. And we've seen that a little bit, you know, very similar game 1 and game 2 in the sense that Detroit was hanging around in the first couple of minutes. I think it was a 5-3 game in both where they're right there. But now New York is starting to go on a run. Detroit's top-end talent is getting tired. New York getting to play through the depth, which is still very strong. I mean, even their third and fourth line is as good as the first. And now you're about to get into the flag runner game pretty soon, which New York caught that in game 1 as well. If Detroit is able to get a flag catch once we get there, then we can talk about this being a game. But New York just has everything going for them right now.
Yeah, and I think 2 points of note is that Leo Freed has not had a sub all game. He's played the entire game so far. And I think Josh Johnson has had a few subs, but when he was not on the pitch, I think you could tell. And since he's gotten back, that's kind of where that 3-0 run sparked, was with him coming in and getting some of those goals. Meanwhile, coming out of Detroit's timeout, they're going to be running an offense here. Ashton Glenn, far side ball handling back into this one for Robert Butler. Luke Markland, I don't think is subbed either for Innovators. Might be wrong on that one, but I do think both Markland and Freed have played the entire game so far.
Markland's definitely been on the field quite a bit this game.
So Markland back up top, one bounce to Glenn, and right back to Markland. Morella to close out. Markland driving right, shooting over the top. That's a pass to Glenn over the top of those hoops. Far side now, Detroit. Driving, then pulling up. Driving once again, the pass back out to Glenn. Josh Johnson can't quite get the wrap up. Freed goes for the shot, can't put it home, and that's going to be a stop there for the Titans.
Freed caught that rebound. You need to be able to see him finish that if Detroit's going to have a chance of getting back in this game. Still a good look from Glenn and Freed, even despite through the contact, but unable to find the score.
Jacob Ehrlich and Christian Barnes into this game now beating for the Titans. Ehrlich, I believe his first game, did not play in game 1. I believe he was starting out on the injured reserve and is now an active player here. It's going to be paired with Barnes. Morella, the pass over to the top. Josh Johnson. Johnson goes right back to Morella. Pratt is beat out by Barnes. Morella moves right. Glenn in front cannot be beat. The green headband in that zone. Morella now backpedaling far or near corner. Mike Lee. Lee not pressured too highly here as Banis is out top. Banis might be able to turn and throw here if he's looking for it. Morella saves a tough pass and is under no pressure here. Detroit really trying to be conservative. Markland does knock away a pass that was intended for Ryan Leary. And from the ground, Mike Lee can't quite get it to a teammate. Leo Freed slows this one up.
Yeah, I think Freed got up immediately and saw only about 2 players back for New York. Thought about running quickly there with numbers, but then as the reinforcements started to come in, wisely slowed up there.
Sue and Brodeur back in for Detroit. They look to only be running these 2 beater lines. And New York is able to run 4. Certainly could be a storyline as we get to tired legs. Far side, Ashton Glenn, right back up to Leo Freed. Freed back to Glenn. The pump fake from Ehrlich. The hoop just falls over after Leary walks into it. I think there might be a call about that. Markland gets some players off their feet, but could not hit the cutting Leo Freed with the pass, and we are going to get the whistle.
Looked like that went almost behind Markland. Looked like he flipped it up and behind himself, anticipating Leo Fried was going to still be back there behind him. Unable to find it. Yeah, this might be a penalty concerning the hoop falling over, I believe.
Yeah, so I think it was Ryan Leary was playing on the small hoop in a zone set, and as kind of players were running towards her, just took a step back and inadvertently knocked into a hoop, which did fall over. Yep, that is going to be the call. So a yellow card there on Ryan Leary of New York, and a second chance opportunity here for the Innovators.
Getting close to 20 minutes as well. If Detroit holds this for just a couple of seconds, we may hit last possession.
Yep, so we'll see what Detroit elects to do here, because obviously they are on the power play. Down 5, get the goal. Being down 4 at 20 minutes, that's not too bad, especially if you can get that catch, which I'm sure Detroit is confident in themselves to do with Neil Peterson. It is going to be Ashton Glenn to ball handle here, though the refs having a little bit of a conversation. So near side in the corner, Barnes and Sue in a beater battle. There's an AR right on top of that in case there's some contact. I think there was an inbounding as well. Fried cannot get the block off on the... No, does get the block. It just knocked... The beat just knocked the quad ball out. Markland can't score past Morella. And Ashton Glenn now shoots. Somebody got a hand on it. I think it was Josh Johnson. Pratt gets beat out by Barnes. New York gets the stop. And there is another whistle. That is 20 minutes. So a little bit of luck there for New York as a second hoop fell down while they were killing the penalty. Good defense, though, from Lindsey Morella. I'm not really sure that Detroit would have been able to score even if the hoop had stayed up. But as we discussed, a goal there would have made it a 4-goal deficit for Detroit. And I think a 5-goal deficit really feels a lot bigger than that. Being down here 8-3, the set score will be 14.
It's still not impossible, of course. With a flag catch, Detroit would only be down 2. But, of course, being down 1 goal against any team, that's always a manageable outcome. Being down 2 against a team like New York, it's a little bit more intimidating.
So in Game 1, New York was able to get the flag runner grab. It was Jason Ng who pulled the flag. New York boasts an extremely impressive beater rotation of not only Jason Ng but also Mo Hagag. Kellen Cupid had been in that seeker rotation in Game 1, although he is no longer on the active roster for the Titans. Meanwhile, Detroit was just running Neil Peterson, an elite seeker out of the University of Michigan with a number of catches this season, although unsuccessful earlier today in Game 1. In Game 1, both of the teams did devote their dodgeballs to the flag runner game. We'll see if both teams stick with that here. I think that's certainly the play for New York, although Detroit's going to have some tough decisions to make because trading of goals will obviously not benefit them. So there is some discussion here also at mid-pitch between a number of the referees and some of the, I believe, coaches of Detroit. Unclear what that conversation is about. We'll do our best to let you know if and when we find out. Meanwhile, Jackson, New York is 6 goals away from advancing to the semifinals yet again. Do you think they start thinking about that, or is it too close of a game, too close for comfort still?
I don't think it's too close for comfort. I think it's more just the fact that this is potentially New York's last game of the day. I think you're entirely focused on that at the moment. I mean, New York's the kind of team that I don't think they really care who you put in front of them. Their aim is to get to the Beneby Cup finals and win their first title in franchise history. So I don't think they really care who their next opponent is. I think they're just worried about taking care of business right now and getting done with this game.
Meanwhile, Detroit, it's win or go home, so you'll do just about anything to sell out and win this game. Leo Fried, of course, has not subbed. We're pretty confident Luke Markland has also not subbed. So those two players putting in heroic shifts here. Something that the New York team, until this season, was known for doing. Lindsey Morella, John Jackson often played massive shifts for that team to great effect in past seasons. This season, the Titans are a little bit more willing to roll into that depth. and it's Detroit who's being forced to kind of just stay with the Stars, not having a lot of rotations. And I think it shows. It really feels like to loose balls, New York has the upper hand a lot of the time.
Referees are summoning the players back to their team benches, it looks like. So I'm not entirely sure. Potentially somebody took a timeout to extend the halftime. Not entirely sure what occurred there.
Yeah, we're not sure what's going on. The head referee is now talking to New York's head coach Tate K to determine what's going on. Don't have a lot of good ideas. It doesn't look from body language like either team called timeout. Certainly, I mean, fingers crossed, knock on wood. It's not anything to do with the weather. We can let you know that confidently right now. So be interested to see. Earlier today, we've had stoppages similar to this that were about gameplay review challenges. Potentially, that could be something that's happening, although I'm not sure what it would be about. Certainly, the stoppage is great news for Detroit, if it's great news for either team, as Freed and Markland are able to get a little bit more rest here.
Yeah, quick update from pitch 2 here in Howard County, Maryland. The Austin Outlaws are currently leading 135-90 against the Boston Forge, the set score being 150 on that match. Boston leads the series 1-0, but Austin currently leading in game 2.
A classic matchup in MLQ history there. Sounds like a really good game and a good series, of course, after Boston won the first game.
Yeah, not really a ton of movement occurring from either sideline. We can talk about maybe the future of the bracket, though, just in case. It looks like New York is going to be able to get the job done here. It's not set in stone yet. Detroit can obviously come back. But if New York advances, they're going to either be playing San Antonio or Kansas City. San Antonio currently leading that series. San Antonio, the favorite in that series. How do you like a New York versus San Antonio matchup?
I think a New York-San Antonio matchup would turn into an absolute track meet. I think both teams would be looking for flashy beater plays and running transition as much as possible. And I think it will be an extremely entertaining and high-scoring matchup. Both teams have struggled a little bit in their half-court defenses. They've both led up a fairly high number of goals in their first quarterfinal games, respectively, to their lesser-ranked opponents. And I think playing against each other in that mindset, I think both teams think that offense is the better of their two games between offense and defense. I think both teams push further in that direction, and if both teams are focused on offense more than defense, it could end up in a really exciting, albeit I would anticipate chaotic matchup. So it does look like it's going to be a gameplay review, as now we do see members of the gameplay team over by that referee tent. We'll let you know what the review is about as soon as we can find out about that. Meanwhile, Jackson, I mean, we just gave my opinion. Without speculating too much, your opinion. San Antonio wins game 1. New York is up here in game 2 after taking the first game handily. You've watched a lot of San Antonio this year, I believe, called a number of their games in the regular season. How do you view that matchup?
I think New York is still favored in that series, but I agree with everything that you said about it being a track meet. San Antonio is a team that loves to play fast, loves to play through Miguel Esparza as their focal point, but they still have a number of capable chasers themselves, all capable of scoring, all capable of very flashy plays. We saw one of them, David Avila, in the last game score about, I think, 8 goals himself. had himself a day there. The one thing I'd be worried about with that series is that San Antonio plays a lot of their top 10 to 12 people, doesn't play too much into their depth, whereas New York does. And I would get worried about an extended series there, as I think New York would have the advantage as the series goes on.
I think that might be the case, but I think New York's depth is more in their beaters than in their chasers, at least the way they've been using them so far in this quarterfinal. We've seen a lot of Jackson and Johnson. We've seen a lot of Morella and Kim and Leary and Potter. We've seen a little bit of Hagag and Parada, and I don't think we've seen that many chasers outside of that. Although New York does run all of their beaters. They usually carry 8 beaters on a 21-person roster, and they run through all those sets. Something that San Antonio, correct me if I'm wrong, Jackson, mostly run 2 beater sets throughout a game, similar to what Detroit's doing in this series.
Yeah, you'll see the likes of Daniel Williams and Melena Sosa occasionally take beating time. Chris De La Fuente as well will take some beating time. But yeah, Javi Tirina and Kyle Bryant are your main 2 beaters for that team. And they will play long shifts as well. I've seen them take 5, 6, 7-minute shifts at a time. And so San Antonio, like you said with the depth, I think New York is going to be favored. I agree with what you said, definitely in the beating game. But overall, I think maybe you can be similarly talented early on in the series, but I think as it would wend on, I would still favor New York. Of course, it's going to be interesting to see if we even get that matchup. Detroit might still have something to say, and who knows, Kansas City might have something to say earlier in our next match as well.
Yeah, I mean, Kansas City has pulled off a number of upsets so far today, and we definitely don't want to count them out. Obviously, they also had the flag runner game in their first quarterfinal matchup against San Antonio. So while they ultimately lost 160 to 105, it was a close game for large swaths, especially early on.
Yeah, in Kansas City, earlier in the season, when they played San Antonio, it was a 3-0 sweep in favor of the Soldados, but they were all very close games. I think all of them were within about 3-4 points. So Kansas City can definitely play the San Antonio team tough. It's just going to be a matter of can they find the ability to win. We've talked about most of the series. The only one we haven't talked about yet is Chicago-New Orleans. Chicago won the first game against the Curse. That was a 160 to 90 game. The Prowl took it. What are your thoughts on that game? Personally, for me, I'm not going to say surprised because the Curse are a good team, but Curse put up 90 on a pretty good Chicago side. What are your thoughts on that series so far?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we did not get a chance to watch it as we were on the call for the opposite quarterfinal. I think Chicago, as I was just alluding to in a potential matchup between San Antonio and New York, Chicago is also a team that is really exciting when they're playing quickly. They're able to play the half court quickly too, however, and I think that's a really important distinction to make. While they're good in transition, they're also just good playing fast in the half court. I think giving up 9 goals against New Orleans is a tough look. New Orleans offense looks stunted many times today early in the play-in bracket. So without having seen the game, it's tough to know if New Orleans had just a great game, their best game of the tournament so far, or if it was more that Chicago's defense was just really not looking too good. So while it seems like Chicago's going to have control of that series, they won by 7 goals. It's definitely the sort of thing where maybe it's in the future, we're seeing, and now Austin Boston look like they might go 4 games. It really looks like the semifinals could be some high-scoring, exciting games with all the teams that so far have the upper hand.
Yeah, every team in this bracket, I mean, deserves to be there. They've all fought to be there. And all of them are putting up a good show thus far. Quick update from the other field. Boston's starting to make a comeback here. It's 135 to 120. And it's been a really extended game thus far. We're seeing about 31 and a half minutes of game time. That is a really long game. Coming out of the rain delay, you obviously did have that long rest, but still playing 31 minutes of quad ball is not an easy thing to do, especially with maybe a Game 3 on the horizon.
Yeah, and important to note, while this game hadn't started when the rain delay started, that other quarterfinal already had.
seeing the players return to their brooms, so
It
hopefully
seems like the lengthy delay in that gameplay review was that actually there was an appeal on the other game before this appeal. So they had to take over that appeal. They were done with that. Boston and Austin got underway. Then they made their way up here, and we were able to get towards the appeal. It doesn't look like anything is coming out of the appeal. The score remains the same. We are off and running just like that. Peterson and Hagag going to be the starting seekers. Take goes for a big beat and misses. No dodgeballs now. Sue and Brodeur can press. John Jackson now far side sprinting up. Sees that the beaters are going to stay in the seeking game and slows this one down a little bit. Pump fakes once, pump fakes twice, then backs it up as he's met by Leo Freed. Teammates, of course, last year, Freed and most of these Titans players. A good screen there from Morella. Opens the lane up for John Jackson. Jackson there got a little bit cute, purposefully not going that top hoop, going for the score through contact, but is able to convert it 9-3.
Detroit did just score on the opposite way, though, so I believe it's going to be 9-4 coming out of that. It's going to be 9-4. New York still maintains their 5-goal lead.
Ashton Glenn was able to make that ball live and get going for Detroit. And on 9-4, trading of goals here obviously works out in New York's favor as they are in the lead. So Detroit has to be careful, although they can definitely take advantage of all the opportunities that come their way. Meanwhile, Hagag is on the ground with the flag in hand. I did not see that catch. No idea if it's good. Brodeur and Sue both have dodgeballs in their hands, the beaters for Detroit. So there would not be a situation where Hagag was beat before. However, it could be an illegal catch. Could have been debroomed some other way. Referees are going to talk about this. I think this would pretty much end the game if New York were to catch, if the catch is good. And it is. So Mo Hagag gets a quick catch here for New York. That makes the score 12-4. New York only needs 2 goals, and they have the quad ball here. If they convert here before Sue and Brodeur can get back into the play, they could be just 1 goal away.
Yeah, it's pretty much a done deal. I mean, crazier things have happened, but Detroit, you need 10 goals to just New York's 2 to win this game.
John Jackson slows it down, although that gives Sue time to get into the play. Sue ultimately does not throw the dodgeball. Mike Lee now working backside over the top to Lindsay Morella. She picks it up on 1 bounce. Dodgeball's on the ground here. Molly Potter gets the pass over the top. Leo Freed intercepts. Ray Brodeur and Ryan Sue, though, did lose control in that exchange. Tessa Mullins coming up from behind, ultimately does not throw it at Freed as she wanted to maintain control as Ray Brodeur was coming in hot. Freed now to Marklin. Marklin near side, all the way across to Ashton Glenn. Ashton Glenn backpedaling as he's met by a defender. Freed pump fakes once, then to Marklin. Tries to go right back to Freed, but Morella was directly in the path of that pass. Now Mike Lee is off and running. Rips one across. Molly Potter can't quite handle it. The pass was a little bit high, and I think Mike Lee was a little bit rushed there.
Yeah, I think getting just a little bit antsy for the Titans. You know, you see the game within your grasp and you want to end it now. But yeah, just rushing just a little bit too much. I do like the aggression, just unable to find the goal.
So Detroit now moving up the pitch. Freed, far side. I think this might be Ryan Swanson now in black headband for Detroit. Certainly the first time this beater's played so far in this game. Do my best to confirm that number shortly. Lindsay Smyers here with Riley Hoder in front. Also Hoder's first minutes of this one. Pass comes to Glenn. Glenn was looking for the shot before he caught the pass, and that's going to cost him a chance at a goal.
Got to catch before you shoot. Now the Titans going to look to move defense into offense.
Mike Lee, the two-handed push pass to John Jackson at the top of the key. Ehrlich and Barnes now in for Titans. Morella back up to Jackson and then back to Morella. Smyers was playing point defense, but as the pass goes over to Potters, gets back into that zone. Mike Lee now with Barnes in front. Dances forward and then backs well up. Now goes for the drive, tries to get around the corner on Glenn, can't quite do it, passes out to Morella. Morella to Potter, the one-handed grab, comes around the contact, can't put it home. John Jackson bounces it once. A big collision there. No call, though, and Detroit gets a stop. Ehrlich there with a beat on Freed, but ultimately that's not going to cause a turnover. Perhaps it will, as the referees are going to talk about something here.
Yeah, you saw Freed pick that quad ball up, wanted to go quickly until he saw about 4 defenders with a beater back for New York, wisely decides to stop, but then Freed threw the ball up into the air, and then there was a scuffle on the ground for the ball. It's now in the hands of Marklin. There appears to be no call on the play.
Yeah, no call on that play. I think the only thing that might have been discussed was maybe a throw after beat, but it looks like Freed must have gotten it off in time. Barnes and Ehrlich will have control here for the Titans. Titans really struggling to close this one out so far. They only need those 2 goals. They've had a few failed possessions in a row, but they have been successful on the defensive end, so certainly not close to being time to panic. As Leo Freed drying off this quad ball. We did have some rain during that lightning delay, so looks like the field is a little bit wet. Smyers now has it. Drives to space, gets it to Marklin. Marklin over the top to Glenn. Glenn backs it up and gets it to Freed. Pump fake from Barnes. Freed backs up. Ehrlich closes out on Freed. Smyers can't handle the pass. Does eventually pick it up. Gets around the corner on Lee. Gets it to Marklin. Marklin closed out to by Ehrlich. Gets to Freed. Molly Potter stuffs Leo Freed. Ashton Glenn first to the loose ball, but ultimately New York do get the stop, and John Jackson ends up with the quad ball.
Mike Lee also had a block on that play as well. So 2 shots from Detroit and 2 heads-up plays to get 2 very nice blocks. New York defends their hoops.
Shakti Kodaswaran and Annika Kim sub into this game. It does look like New York want to give some of their depth the opportunity to score these goals, get them some minutes before the semifinals tomorrow is likely the viewpoint on that sideline as John Jackson gets around Kodaswaran, his first minutes of the championships. Annika Kim now receives the pass and back to Kodaswaran. Going to be met by Glenn. Goes for the shot, hits the shot. Shakti Kodaswaran, 1 possession, 1 goal, 13-4.
A wonderful no-look shot there. Completely catches Detroit off guard. And now you are in 1 goal and you win the series if you are New York.
Some subs coming in now for Detroit. Leo Freed has subbed out for the first time all game, it looks like. Glenn jumps over a dodgeball, but then Ehrlich hits him in the back. Shakti Kodaswaran was looking up the field before he picked up the ball, couldn't quite get there, but that is going to be an immediate foul on Innovators. It looks like might just be called back to hoops. I think that's ultimately what the call is going to be, as Kodaswaran does come away with the quad ball. Now has it back up top. Kodaswaran goes right to Kim, back to Kodaswaran. Walks forward, gets it to Morella. Center behind. Morella to John Jackson over the top. The beat misses, gets it to Annika Kim. And the errant hand from the Detroit Innovator defender ultimately put that quad ball through the hoop. And the New York Titans are moving on to the semifinals once again, taking care of the Detroit Innovators handily, 2-0 in the series and 145-40 in this game.
Gummy Blocks. fun with 4D gummy blocks.
Hello and welcome back to Pitch 1 here at Troy Park for our second set of quarterfinals, the game 2 between the Chicago Prowl and the New Orleans Curse. It was a Chicago Prowl win comfortably, but meeting some opposition, especially with an extended period of dodgeball control for the Curse beaters. We'll see if they can replicate that here. Ben Peachy has the ball right now behind for Chicago on this first possession. Back up to DME, who is a force on the offensive end in game 1.
Early on, we're seeing more pressure here from the New Orleans quadball core defensively, out in kind of a 2-2 and extending it out into the corners to try to probably disturb some of Chicago's ability to control possession and pass around their diamond.
Yeah, and dodgeball control is once again with New Orleans early. Peachy now trying to make their way through the top of the zone. It's DME who has it now. Trying to work past. Mertens does it with flair. Posterizes the middle hoop.
My goodness. Oh, my gosh. You got the launch codes for that thing? My man's in orbit right there. DME showing off the athleticism with a sky-high dunk on the middle hoop. Great way to start off the scoring here.
Yeah. And, that dynamism is something that Chicago's missed in recent years, where DME's been on roster but not been able to be at championships. Ben Mertens was squared up in front of DME playing point, and I don't think laid a single finger on him on his way past.
No, it's crazy. When you get DME with space, it's like there is no defense there. So fast in a straight line, you have to respect every jab. He goes both directions while he spins, and he can jump and shoot. It's so tough.
But all that said, Tad Walters is going to pick up a yellow card earlier in that play, and the goal is going to be disallowed. Doesn't make it any less cool, but it will be disallowed.
Certainly won't make it any less cool. But something where if New Orleans, is going to have to think about if they're looking to extend their pressure from their quad ball players, you're going to have to be defending in more space, and it could leave you susceptible to that.
Now Mueller's looking to go end-to-end and picks out Mertens, and New Orleans has a lead early here in game 2.
Well done. Good execution there on the fast break. New Orleans sitting with control now. We'll see if they're able to leverage it and make Chicago be a little bit more reactive rather than proactive in their half-court offense.
The coach there opening up the scoring for the Curse. DME just being chased around the pitch right now by Yanofsky. Eventually just gives it off to Peachy. Peachy had a great game 1 for Chicago. Gets one over to Allie there, but she can't handle it cleanly. We've seen a lot of the teams, as that is just thrown over the half-court line, probably the sloppiest play we've seen from Chicago all weekend so far.
Yep.
Seems like everyone's adjusting a little bit to the wet turf, a little bit of – we saw that in the last game we broadcast as well. A lot of drops in the first few minutes coming back out onto the field.
And one thing I hadn't considered, I said the ball should dry off fine, but they're obviously going to pick up moisture off the wet turf here.
And Mertens just goes end-to-end, and just like that, a little 2-0 lead and a little bit of hope for New Orleans. And, one of the advantages that Chicago had coming into this series was, they were a little fresher than New Orleans, who had played some marathon games in the play-in bracket, but that matters left after a 3-hour rain delay.
Yeah, I was going to say that, you could take a nap, stretch out, get your PT work in, get an ice bath in, and still warm up in time for this game. So we'll see if New Orleans looks a little bit fresher as this one continues to get going.
Nathan Digman in the lane. Oh, and a huge hit there and knocked down. Can New Orleans look to run again? No, they're going to have to pull it out this time. But, yeah, Chicago not messing around, getting to that Matt Melton, Nathan Digman line in a hurry this time. I think they recognize that things are a little amiss here early in game 2.
Yeah, interesting. And, we just saw a series that was ultimately ended because the team that had the advantage played with their food and let the other team back in. I think if Chicago has any awares about that game, they want to make sure they don't do the same thing. Don't give yourself a hole to dig out of.
Emma Vasquez currently tracking, I believe, Ben Mertens there on the wing. Gets it across. Oh, not handled cleanly there by Shelby Castillo there.
Yeah, and we're seeing the ball kind of skip as it will off of a wet but not raining, no puddles situation. Easiest way to avoid that is to hit your passing targets in the chest.
Fugate has the ball on the far side. Back up to Digman.
Chicago looking to attack this medium-sized hoop.
Goes over the top Melton. taking his time. Working on running, I believe. And Melton has it again, a little bit of a bobble. Running gets to close the space. Mansfield has the only dodgeball for New Orleans right now. Melton just runs to where his beaters are. Now looking to drive. Hits the lane. Oh, it was just stripped right out of his hand. The size of New Orleans around the hoop making a difference there. It's Carson Running who just takes that ball away from Matt Melton.
New Orleans playing like a team up against the end of their season here. Definitely a better sense of urgency, physicality, and execution in the scoring area so far in this one.
Chicago going scoreless in what's soon to be the first 5 minutes of this game is something we did not see coming. Josh Mansfield might have just butchered an attempt to sub out of this game, or it was one big trap to get the beaters overextended from Chicago. It is 3-0 right now, New Orleans, after the Marcellus Lewis goal.
Which of these teams is favored in this series? I'll tell you what, New Orleans firing on all cylinders right now. Definitely coming out, adjusted the way that they played. They're back into a trees look here, making Chicago play a little bit reactive rather than just getting into what looks like practice for them like they look against so many other teams.
Yeah. Nathan Digman looking to finally open the scoring, but another stuff there from Marcellus Lewis, who's now going to try to get into the passing lane. Melton, though, now is finally going to get a chance to drive, but ends up having to run through the whole team. No dodgeball still, slips off of Ben Mertens, and it's a big hit there from Mueller.
Good aggressiveness from Melton there. Looks like he's going to draw a foul. The spin cycle, well done. And, good things happen when you drive. Like, you get into the paint, you're going to get hit, but it can be worth it, right? You make the other team come up and tackle you legally. Get them out of their game, show that you're not just going to let them dominate this area and you're going to try to shoot through it. Go force the issue. Really well done by Melton.
A lengthy conversation about this call. If it's a foul, Melton will kind of get to move his way over to the far hoop and have a very good scoring opportunity. It is going to be a call on Mueller here. Pro New Orleans crowd unhappy with the call. It's a lot of the Charlotte contingent. Charlotte has a large New Orleans transplant contingent on their team and has clearly taken to becoming the fans of this team.
And they travel well, and they brought the energy all day. I've been down in the stands for much of today. It's been great to sit near them and feel the energy that they bring.
Melton's having some words. I think they're trying to figure out exactly how this is going to be worked.
As they get settled on the restart position, I believe.
Yep. So it wasn't an advantage, so he doesn't get to reset his spot. It just ends up having to dish it out to Emma Vasquez, and now Josh Mansfield's looking to press. Mansfield might be in a bad spot here. Oh, no, it makes a big beat there on Tad Walters. Meanwhile, Nathan Digman trying to finish, but another huge hit. New Orleans is bringing the lumber right now.
How about that? New Orleans hammers, I guess, against the Chicago Nails right now. They are team tackling. They are individually tackling. They are guarding their yard. They are rotating. And the beaters are playing excellent support quad ball right now for a really well-rounded way to start this game.
6 minutes of scoreless quad ball from one of the tournament favorites right now. And New Orleans is up 3-0, something that I don't think anybody here at Troy Park saw coming.
No, I did have Thunder on my bingo card. I'll tell you what, I didn't have this one. If you're New Orleans, you couldn't have drawn it up any better to start this game.
Lewis behind the play. Oshra clearing. Oh, and he gets back to Mertens. Mertens trying to slip through the contact, but Digman makes a very nice wrap there to end the possession. Now Chicago is getting into a more comfortable spot looking to run, but no, they do end up slowing it down.
Interesting here. And Chicago team, obviously, that trust their half court and with good reason. You wonder if, as the game stretches on, the pace becomes a problem, as I'm sure New Orleans would be happy to hunker down and let them play and pass around in the half court, especially with a little bit of a cushion here on the scoreboard.
Griffin Parr is checked in a beater, and a player we haven't seen a ton of. And Mueller comes out of nowhere to make that save. So New Orleans comfortable playing through its depth, obviously not the deepest team overall, and still getting results here. 7 minutes have now ticked by scoreless for the Chicago Prowl.
Mueller's been a spark plug so far on the defensive end.
Oh, and a rare missed shot by Digman and a rare bobble by Matt Melton. Another stop for New Orleans.
New Orleans has just been the more mentally focused team, a team willing to be physically tougher right now. A great first shift from the starters from New Orleans.
And they walked out of that play with control. Chicago was, overexerting their dodgeball control. Tad Walters is past half court with his team's only dodgeball. Really trying to get in Griffin Parr's head here.
I honestly don't hate forcing the issue, but you got to just go. So Tad just falling back into the play now. Smart decision.
PJ Mitchell had the ball on the wing, gets it back to Charlton Trammell. And now it's Marcellus Lewis. Shelby Cassia, just the close down from Byron Ing, shuts the door. Now Liam Zock's looking to run. But dodgeball control did get shifted again there on offense. Kenny Murphy, the coach, says, if none of you are going to do it, I'm going to do it. Nice feed from Zock, and she finishes.
She's not mad. She's just disappointed. She has to do this herself, and a great execution there in transition. And a floaty but well executed, on time, and accurate pass from Zock to get that play going.
And now a dangerous spot for New Orleans. Oh, a long shot there. Troy went crashing through that hoop. I think the referee, I was thinking they might say it wasn't even going to affect play, so why does it matter? But we might, given that the ball was kind of headed in the direction, we might get a call here. No, nothing called.
Yeah. Well done by the refs. Making sure they consider everything, but yeah, definitely a no harm, no foul situation.
And keeping the stoppage short even so.
Yes, well done. And Chicago looking to, turn the tide a little bit, pick up the pace, and play to their preferences in this situation. Like I said, New Orleans' preference right now, keep the cushion, keep the pace down, but Chicago out and running.
Liam Zock, a full head of steam down the pitch, floats over the top for Byron Ing. Ing doesn't get it clean, then gets it to Murphy. Back up to Zock.
Well done transition defense from New Orleans to get set.
Oh, and a nice dish. Kenny Murphy's just pulling the strings of this offense right now.
Good time and a great beat on the far side on the short hoop.
Yeah, Chicago finally starting to show up.
Yep. Took a second.
Yeah,
But
a second's generous. Took about 8 minutes of game time.
But when you can fill up the scoreboard as fast as this team can, 8 minutes is nothing. You could put 3 goals on very quickly, and I'm sure they'll look to here as they still have control.
Yeah,
Wouldn't be surprised if they try to start a press off of this restart.
Yeah, and I'm wondering when we're going to see Sanders, Pucciarelli, and probably more of Josh Mansfield into this game so far. We saw some of their depth beaters come out first, which really makes the performance even the more impressive.
Yeah, and if you're New Orleans, you're looking to get control back and sit on it. That's what helped you so much in the first game of this series.
This is going to be a foul against Tad Walters, who just threw a dodgeball out of play. Tad Walters knows what he did. I think he's just walking right off the field.
Yeah, Tad Walters brought a lot of energy so far, but sometimes energy can help you. It can kind of push you towards mental mistakes. Couple of lost exchanges so far. Obviously, that's one you'd like to have back.
Ref conversation here. Tad Walters definitely.
And we got some more discussion here. Walters pleading his case.
Still a 3-2 New Orleans lead. I mean, how much would New Orleans have paid you if you said, I'll give you the situation if you're going to be up 10 minutes into this game?
I'm sure they would have taken it, and it just goes to the coaching staff on New Orleans does a really good job getting the squad prepared. They pulled, I think, 9 flags this year between the regular season and today. An absurd amount. Shows just how situationally well prepared they are. They made it through a tough South Division, and in a tough playing bracket just to be here right now. They do a really good job of adapting between games and adjusting mid-game, and I think we're seeing that a little bit here.
Lengthy conversation for no call.
All right.
Dodgeball control has gone over to New Orleans from that exchange, though. Ben Mertens now wants the version of events from the referees. head coach of this New Orleans team.
Yep. These coaches will do, we mentioned it in the Austin-Boston game. Sometimes it's just finding out information. Whatever inch you can get to help you be more prepared to execute, these coaches are going to take it.
Oshra prepared to start a wrap on Sarah Kneeling. Tad Walters could make the decision to go chasing that. I'm trying to figure out where the quad ball is right now.
I am also trying to figure out where the quad ball is right now. I think it's being dried off.
Unless Liam Zock is holding it, I do not see a quad ball player holding
off
it. Yeah,
assistant
Liam Zock
ref
does have
Ryan
it.
Davis.
So Tad Walters is going to get to try to exchange here on Sarah Kneeling with help from Ausha. Griffin Parr is going to have something to say about 2 from the right, but also might need to play some defense. No calls on the play.
And Ausha in this situation, I was going to say, you don't have to be shy about the wrap. You just can't touch the player before the possession starts.
Parr just has to throw back, which at least shuts down the fast break, but also is going to give up control. Zock, though, just walks right through the lane. No, goes high over the top. It's Troy fighting through it and putting it through, and we're not up at 3.
And an instance there of Chicago showing we're not going to be dominated in the hoop zone area. We can fight for rebounds and be physical enough to get goals here. Heady play from Trammell to get as much time as he can, resetting the quad ball.
And now Austra and Walters are in their element trying to press this game to its conclusion. Floater there from Trammell, picked off by Ing. Ing is always happy to run. Gets out in front of his entire team.
Ooh.
Just puts a move there on Marcellus Lewis. Ing is in the scoring book, and on a 4-0 run, Chicago jumps back out in front in this game.
My goodness, the shake and bake there put Lewis on skates. So hard to defend in transition, and when you got a player with wheels like that, it gets even harder. Not much Lewis could do there, and a great job in transition to get the easy finish.
And now the press is coming out in droves. Walters is pressing right to that keeper's own line, forcing a pass to nobody. Zock is going to get lit up there by P.J. Mitchell. Might have been necessary to stop another transition goal.
And Mitchell obviously unhappy about it. The fans getting into this one as the tide starts to turn a little bit for the Prowl.
Ing over the top. Troy goes to the big hoop. Troy, his second of the game, 5-0 run. And it's Tad Walters and Noyes Osra who are completely bullying this game, and a timeout for New Orleans.
I said it before, sometimes when you watch this Prowl team, they're playing live games and it looks like practice. That was 5 connected passes in transition, all 4 quad ball players touching the ball for a goal where no one was touched physically. That is exactly how you would draw it up. Not much you can do there. And New Orleans, good to call this timeout right here. You need it desperately.
Yeah, and I think something's got to change in this dodgeball game. You know, I don't know if it's injuries or what, but we haven't seen the usual depth chart out of New Orleans here. And I think that's part of what Tad Walters and Noyes Osra have been able to take advantage of over the past few minutes. So we'll see if we see some of those standard pairs coming out now.
Yeah, and if you're New Orleans, I mean, this is going to sound dumb, but you got to protect possession, right? So how about stop throwing 40-yard passes in the face of a beater and start throwing 10-yard passes in the face of a beater? If they're pressuring you, you don't have to get over half and then throw it away when you have to. Don't have a live ball turnover right to somebody waiting to run back on you. You know, obviously the risk that Chicago's running by trying to extend the press is overextending and getting beat out and giving you that possession that that dodgeball control that you can then sit on and squeeze out some time in this game. So make them be extended for a long period of time. They're kind of just coming up and scaring you into a turnover. Connect some passes on your own half so that your own beaters have a chance to get into the play.
It is going to be Mansfield coming back onto this pitch here along with Yanofsky. But another press forces another turnover. Yanofsky gets it across to Mansfield, but Mansfield gets beat. It's going to be no dodgeballs once again. Oh, but this time Zock gets the door shut on him by P.J. Mitchell. Troy is going to pick it up. Troy runs right into Josh Mansfield, but does get over the top to Ing. Only one hoop remains standing here.
Trammell refusing to be screened at the hoops there. If you're Chicago, I wonder if you just try to push somebody into it so you can get them reset.
I was thinking something similar, if I'm being honest.
It's leaning right now.
Yeah.
You throw a dodgeball at it if you have to.
That feels like the kind of situational awareness you don't work on very often in practice, though.
No. Yeah, if you get to that, you must never make a mistake anywhere else, and you must not need to condition.
So one way or another, New Orleans does find a stop here and finds dodgeball control. Really need a goal now to start turning the tide back.
New Orleans finally with an opportunity to control the pace here. The key is, playing slow doesn't get you anything if you don't score goals. So they gotta get one here to turn the tide.
A nice pass across there from Lewis to Cassio, but it's Liam Zock shutting the door.
Well done. Good rotation from Chicago at their hoops, and another good play to try to keep this run alive.
And now the Mansfield-Pucciarelli combo is finally on pitch here.
As Chicago's first line heads back in the quadball game.
Along with Williams and Maroic in the beater game. Just trying to kill time here. Guyman's got to take it wide. Diamond just stepped right out of bounds. Going to be a free turnover. In fact, DME is still standing out of bounds currently.
Well done by New Orleans to utilize control to pressure the ball and get a turnover there. We'll see if they're able to do anything with it.
And they might be able to create a no dodgeball situation. I think Caleb Williams is holding a ball, but with no protection from a teammate. Because Maroic has to go back. Yeah, Mansfield just takes the exchange. Now it is Lewis going down the field ahead of steam. Tries a mid-range shot. Not the look I necessarily would have liked to see. Didn't have enough teammates really running with him there.
Yeah, kind of. The timing was no good, and it doesn't just affect half courts. It'll affect fast breaks, too. It's kind of Mansfield went, then some of the quad ball players went. The other ones thought they were going to stop, and he ran out of options there.
Guyman with the ball on the near side.
New Orleans back into that kind of pressing, or I guess more aggressive 2-2.
Oh, and it's too easy there for Peachy. It was Pucciarelli who didn't notice a beat coming from Caleb Williams, forced Josh Mansfield to make an aggressive play to keep control, and that led to the no dodgeball situation that Chicago was able to capitalize. It's a 6-0 run now for Chicago as they've slowly taken back control of this game.
And good execution there from Peachy. I think the changeup from New Orleans between games bought New Orleans a few extra stops in terms of just throwing something different at them and making Chicago adjust. That was a really good read to attack the player stepping off from hoops and shoot at the open spot.
Oh, it's a big hit there. Stopping another attempt. It was De La Rosa looking to get involved and a little bit of extra there. But in the end, it is going to be Chicago ball.
And New Orleans, if you're Chicago, you have to be ready for this. You expect a team with their season on the line to be playing as aggressively as possible, to be playing as physically as possible, to not give you any free chances, and you just got to be mentally and physically tough enough to withstand that.
New Orleans beaters just cycle the dodgeballs there, and they're going to have a press opportunity. No dodgeball around. A really good effort there by Mueller. Forces the turnover. They might get to run. No, there is going to be a dodgeball back, so they're probably going to have to slow it down. But again, it's a tricky half-court offense to play because they really don't want to risk that control because of how important it's been on the defensive end. Long pass across there to Cassia. But nothing going there. And it really feels like New Orleans has put Cassio in some tough spots in this game. Not a lot of good scoring opportunities. Long passes, lofting passes where the defense is going to close on her before she gets a chance to make a play.
Yeah, and Chicago's so tight in their defensive rotations. And I was able to talk with head coach Kennedy Murphy on Tea Time earlier this season. So make sure you subscribe on the MLQ Network there. But one of the things that she emphasized that they're trying to always improve on is the timing of their rotations. She believes if they rotate fast enough, they can stop anybody.
Missed shot there from Kennedy Murphy. Merton's looking to run out in transition, but it's just going to slow it down. The Mansfield-Pucciarelli line has seemed to stabilize the ship a little bit here for New Orleans. They've only given up one goal since they came in. Mueller's beat. I think Murphy might be headed to the box for that hoop dislodgement.
Yeah, and that is we'll see what the refs decide here, but New Orleans was able to, I mean, both Mansfield and Pucciarelli have been playing so well this weekend. They've dominated in flag runner on pitch situations earlier in the tournament, creating a lot of good looks. And again, they were kind of the catalyst that started that mini run, extended short run, whatever you want to call it, that period of most resistance, we'll say, in the first game that really made it tough on Chicago, made them have to grind out possessions. And you can see once they subbed in, it's a lot harder for Chicago to control the pace right now. The game is kind of being played on New Orleans' terms a bit.
Yeah, so Murphy is going to get a card there. Mueller's not going to get to move around. I don't think is going to be able to run a fast break here. Heroic is generally in the area of the play. Mueller gets it to about the keeper's own line. Considering a shot, just floats in. Digman has the answer. Really nice stop.
Good play by Digman. Called
off. And Chicago just knocked that ball out of bounds. Burton's looking to run. Matched up with Troy. Dodgeball's flying, all of them thrown by Josh Mansfield. Merton's looking for the poster.
Interesting. The crowd thinks we got mixed reaction here from the crowd. Some of it thinks it went through. I thought maybe it went through as the hoop was falling down. But kind of an interesting extra possession there that all started from a hustle play from Digman, tried to save a loose ball with his broom, and then was called off broom by the near side assistant ref Ryan Davis. And then Chicago kind of kicks the ball into each other, and we end up with this weird extra possession with a scrum in the beater game trying to figure out who has control.
And, you know, every dunk on a defended hoop gets a little bit strange and messy in MLQ Quadball because, you know, you never know if a team's just kind of, if a player's fading back into the hoops a little too early. I think Digman gets called for a dislodgement there. 2 dislodgements on one play here. And at this point, you got to think that Mertens has to score one, but no, he got a little too cute. Floated one in the direction of Casio, and there was no way for her to get it because of the hoop that was in her way.
That's tough. That is a tough situation and a mental error you really can't have at this point if you're New Orleans, and we'll see if Chicago's able to kind of kill the man advantage here.
You kind of have to find a way to press this 2 quad ball player line with control, I think.
You have to, yeah. As much as you'd like to keep the game going slow, as we got a missed beat attempt there from Mansfield. You got to utilize the numbers advantage while you have it.
Yep, Kenny Murphy now back in the game. I don't know how Mansfield ended up being the one who got that dodgeball, but he did. He is a quick beater, that is for sure. Richard tries to make a beat on Pucciarelli, does so, but now Josh Mansfield makes it in exchange, but Liam Zock just runs through, jams it home. It's a 4-goal lead here for Chicago. It is a 7-0 run.
That is an absolutely brutal series of events for New Orleans to have a spot where you could force it home for a goal. Instead, you give up a goal when you had a 2-person advantage.
Yeah, it just seems like this New Orleans team doesn't quite have enough answers on the offensive end since they got those early goals.
Yeah, and you've seen Chicago tighten the screws here. They're mentally focused. You know, they were a little late, but they're on time now with everything that they're doing and making plays physically and with active hands.
Digman looking to move in the half court, but rips another missed shot. And I would say Digman's shot's been a little bit more off today than we're used to. Usually one of the best shooters in the league.
Yeah, Digman is an exceptional shooter, has been for a really long time. So frustrating to play against. Shoots well from multiple arm angles, including especially that push shot. That one was a little bit more overhand. Yeah, uncharacteristic, we'll say. But not something I'd be super worried about if I'm a Chicago fan.
Mansfield and Pucciarelli coming back off the field now. I wonder if they're going to try to get right back in for the flag runner on pitch period. Sanders making his first appearance here in game 2. Alongside Sarah Nailing. And a tap beat might have just cost him control immediately. Dodgeballs are on the ground. Can New Orleans finally take advantage? Charleston Trammell is denied. Lewis can't come up with it cleanly and just swats it over to Digman. So control lost and no goal to come from it.
Chicago has been doing everything right recently. They're not skipping any steps on the defensive side of the ball. And this is really a team that thrives on defense. Double check my math on the MLQ stats page for 2024, but I do believe they finished with the fewest goals allowed as a team so far this season. It really shows right now.
PG ball on the wing. Last 30 seconds here of the Seeger floor. Vasquez in the lane, gets it over the top to Ing. Fugate now has it. Beat there made successfully on Camila Rodriguez, who's playing her first minutes. Tad Walters comes flying into the play. Him and Mike Sanders are scrapping. Meanwhile, pass goes over the top, and PJ Mitchell says, no thank you, Byron.
Mitchell playing with a little attitude right now. Always been a very talented and physical player. Provides quite the spark for this New Orleans side.
Seems like there might be a call being made possibly against Sanders or against at least a beater on New Orleans. Otherwise, I think, barring slight discrepancies in time here, that should be the end of the 20 minutes.
Yeah, we definitely should be up against it. And for everything that New Orleans did right for the first 8 minutes of this game, life comes at you pretty fast for the next 12, and Chicago has completely shut the door, boarded the windows. They are not letting anybody in on the defensive side right now. New Orleans hasn't even really had that many good looks.
Yeah, for sure. And haven't taken advantages of the ones they've had. Just a lot of sloppy passes around the hoops. The kind of things you never see from the Chicago team.
Yeah.
And I think that's why.
Where they are right now.
Yep.
And if you're New Orleans, I'd like to see you try to force the issue a little bit. Obviously, you don't really want to put your dodgeballs if you can get control too far into the offensive end, but try to set some screens and get downhill to force this zone to collapse so that they can't just be flying out to passes and providing ball pressure in the keeper zone to turn you over. If you're Chicago, you don't really change anything. You have your point of emphasis be you do not give up second chance opportunities. You do not let loose balls roll away from you. You do not make mental mistakes that lead to cards. And you just keep making your reads and trusting your teammates.
And Byron hits that shot. 8-3 now the score. And now it's a 20-minute mark. So with that 5-goal lead on the side of on the side of Chicago. Trammell hits the lane over to Marcellus. Another floater that's just too easy for Chicago to knock down. They get the stop, and that's really been the story of the back half of this game for New Orleans on offense.
And so there were two passes thrown on that possession, right? The first one was out of a drive attempt from the middle back out to the outside. Now, it skipped in, and so it wasn't as dangerous as it could have been, but you now had a player receiving a ball against a defender trying to close out in space. Much easier to attack than the second pass, which was thrown flat-footed across a zone which had already recovered. Use your legs, attack the zone, try to get some penetration, and make the defense respect you. Make them over-rotate because they know their rotation so well that if you're just going to try to pass around them, they know where you're going before you do.
So just 6 goals or 3 and a catch separate Chicago from a place in the semifinals and a potential matchup with a Boston team riding high after taking down Austin 2-0 in their quarterfinals. All of this action will be taking place tomorrow morning right here on Pitch 1 at Troy Park.
Yeah, if you're Chicago, it's all about energy right now. It's all about mental focus. We referenced it earlier in the show today. Don't play with your food. You do not need a pull to win this game, but you know that New Orleans does. So you can do with that information what you will. You can either use it against them and put your dodgeballs in the quad ball game, try to stretch it out that way, or you can just make sure, hey, I don't care how long this game goes, I'm going to make sure that nobody pulls, or at least not New Orleans, and take the win that way. And if you're New Orleans, you're in the tough spot of having to play both ways here. You can't just let them run up 6 goals on you, but you got to give your great seeking game, led by Carson Running, an opportunity to make some magic happen for you. Excited to see how it all plays out here as we get out of this intermission at 20 minutes. And we're off here. Chicago brings the ball over mid-pitch.
Zoc bringing the ball up. Gets it out on the wing here to Alley. Back behind to DME. Noyes Ostra gets the start this time for Chicago. No catch in this series in game 1. Zoc throws it high, knocked down there by PJ Mitchell. DME somehow comes out of the scrap, puts it through, and 9-3 now the score.
And I believe that was a cheeky kick from Zoc to free DME. Really well done to get the extra possession there on that offensive rebound from Chicago.
And just like that, Oshra immediately with the grab. Statement grab there from one of the better seekers in this league and definitely one of Chicago's best.
Oshra, a weapon in the seeking game, has been playing so well, both beating and seeking, and a really, really nice piece to have for this Chicago team who is trying to get over the hump and win an MLQ championship for the first time in their program's history. And what would be a devastating blow for a New Orleans team that continues to fight hard, continues to make improvements season after season. Played so hard this weekend to reach the quarterfinals. They're definitely up against it right now. Steep hole to climb out of, to say the least. And we have Trammell looking to restart here in a bit of a pickle. A lot of blue and white jerseys around him. He does have some support in the middle of the field. But no dodgeball to speak of yet.
Pile up here on the ground.
And Chicago comes out with it.
Zoc up top, over to Troy. Troy's had a nice game here for Chicago. Gets it over the top to DME. DME makes the block. Dodgeball does go wide. Actually, I think they said it deflected off of the quad ball and hits the player, so it is going to be a beat.
And New Orleans with some control here. We'll see how aggressive they choose to be with it. Obviously, with the score being what it is, your clock management situation changes a little bit. You know, obviously you got to play for a long game if you're trying to climb out of this hole, but you can't wait around forever. You got to get some goals to go your way here. It's been forever, feels like, since they scored.
Yeah, it's definitely a different situation than the game we were just watching between Boston and Austin, where, you know, there was a path back for Boston. This is a long, long road for New Orleans, and you have to think that Chicago might have 1 foot into the semifinals already.
Yeah, but you don't get there unless you do a great job and don't skip steps in this game, which they really have not, especially on this end.
Oh, DME comes flying through the air to deflect that. Now is running in transition, full ahead of steam. Fakes twice, gets over to Zoc. Zoc finishes through Mueller. It is now game point for the Chicago Prow.
Well executed fast break there. Zoc and DME have provided electric energy for Chicago on both sides of the ball, doing what the team has really done best there, turning defense into offense for an easy one.
PJ Mitchell, the slow walk up. Wrapped by Troy. Picked up by Zoc. Parr misses the beat. Zoc just has 1 to beat. Doesn't even need to. Over to DME. And with one last dunk, DME completes the sweep and puts Chicago into the semifinals, and a date tomorrow morning with the Boston Forge.
I cannot wait for that one, as we've got two quality sides here and a stacked semifinal. It should be a great day of quad ball. After what has been a great one so far, we still got another game coming your way, so don't go anywhere.
No, that is a wrap for tonight.
That's a wrap for tonight.
Yeah.
How about that?
We have our 4 semifinalists: San Antonio, Boston, Chicago, and New York will be competing tomorrow. New York and San Antonio on one side of the bracket, Boston and Chicago on the other. I should say that I don't think they've actually allowed the teams to walk off the field yet.
Goal is no good. How about that?
Sorry for getting into our sign off there. I think everybody thought it was over.
Bonus content for us. Everybody in the facility thought we were wrapping up there, but New Orleans not going down without a fight. Lucky for us, we got some more quad ball coming at you tonight.
I think it might have been that early throw by Parr on Zoc that I also had thought hit, that it was played through. That's the only thing I can think of.
Oh, how about that? That's a long beat there, and definitely worthy of extending this game.
Spicer with the ball up top over to Cassio. Up top to Spicer. Spicer floats it. Oh, look to go. Oh, Miller can't get to go. Denied one more time. But I did like the look of that offense.
Yep, finally get a good opportunity there, although even that was a contested catch and a contested finish. Even when you get a good look against Chicago, it's not easy.
And now it's Troy moving down the field. Absorbs some contact, gets it over to Zoc. Zoc driving the lane. Zoc goes high. DME going to actually try to end it this time. There is a foul call potentially coming against Chicago here, so I'm not going to go into a sign-off this time.
And you love to see the fight from New Orleans. I meant it when I said this team does not give up. They will not make it easy on anybody that they're playing. Just is in their DNA as a team and how they're constructed and how they prepare.
Oh, and this time the goal is good. This time DME has punched Chicago's ticket to the semifinals. So now to actually recap, on one side of the bracket, the Chicago Prowl will be taking on the Boston Forge, and on the other side of the bracket, the San Antonio Soldados will take on the New York Titans. And we will be right here on the MLQ Network to break it all down starting tomorrow morning. For myself, for Teddy Costa, for all of the staff that have worked for us this weekend so far, as well as Harry Clark, our producer, and Rose over at Pitch 2. We thank you for watching. We hope you would tune in again early. I think we're only about 8.5, 9 hours from start time tomorrow. So we'll be here to break it all down. We will see you in the AM.